Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's weekly watch list. Hopefully, you all had a nice, relaxing weekend and are looking forward to get back to trading on Monday. So, let us start by looking at the overall market as a whole to get a better picture of where this week could potentially go. So, we'll start off here with the ES futures. And if we had a closer look here, so we did have this larger flush below that 50 moving average, which used to be a place of support. It broke through that level, came down to this -3 ATR region, which is always an extended region, and bounced off that level to actually close the week above the 21 EMA on the daily time frame and back above that 50 moving average. So had a great rebound off of that to close the week, and its structure now is looking solid. Unfortunately, we don't have stacked DMAs anymore, but it is trading above that 21 EMA. We're also seeing that we are losing some bearish momentum with these yellow histogram bars coming in, so that is also a good sign as well. So hopefully this week we can get another continuation to the upside, but we shall see. But its structure is looking much better than it was earlier in the week of last. So looking at the Qs here, kind of the same story basically as the ES. Had that flush down to -3, bounced off of it, and now you're closing back above the 21 EMA. We still don't have our stacked DMAs, so that's definitely something to be hesitant about, but we shall see come Monday where futures actually open. And then if we come here to the Dow, kind of the same story as the other ones. Have that flush, -3, have the bounce, and then has reclaimed the 21 EMA. This one is unfortunately though trading below the 50 moving average, which compared to the other indices, I like this one the least just due to its structure, but I do like how it is now trading above that 21. And then last but not least, if we come here and look at the Russell, this is actually probably my favorite indice at the moment. We can see that we have just been in this channel bouncing back and forth between it, looking eventually for that time to now finally break out of this. We are getting a low compression squeeze here on the daily. We don't have a good histogram as we're below zero with red bars, but we are holding above that 21 EMA and that 50 moving average. And then I also like this one. If we look at a weekly time frame, it has been in a weekly squeeze for what is that, like 5-ish months now probably, and it's been doing a whole lot of nothing, just pinging back and forth between those channels. And we are looking a little better here in the histogram with the yellow, but ideally would like to see this get above that zero line before really looking to get long with this one, because this weekly squeeze should be propelled by that daily squeeze eventually firing in a direction. So we will see where that one ends up going. So now looking at actually a few individual sectors that I think are still holding pretty good structure compared to the other ones. The first one being the financials. So if we come here, you had this low compression squeeze fire to the downside, had this huge gap, and then within 4 days it filled that gap, which is always nice to see. That means that the buyers came in strong and filled that gap quickly. We're getting the start of another squeeze here with this candle. We're trading above that 21 EMA, so I do like this one structure compared to a lot of the other ones, and it does look solid to make a continuation to that upside. And then another thing to note about the financials, if we look at TNX, the 10-year Treasury Index, this thing has been booming. We did have this daily squeeze looking to fire, and then if we actually come here to the weekly chart, you can see that it held that 50 moving average perfectly and is bouncing off of it. So if this can keep continuing to move, that should help banks and financials continue as well. So that's something to also look at. The next sector that's holding up very well is XLK, or the technology sector. You can see, just like most stocks basically did, had that gap down when we had the big gap down on the indices, filled that gap within 4 days because buyers came back in strong, and now its structure is still looking very solid to me. Unfortunately, yes, don't have the stacked DMAs, but we are trading above that 21 and the 50 moving average, which is very solid to see in my opinion. And then the last sector that I think is solid to the upside is XLY. Same story here, different sector. Gap down, filled gap. This one I like a lot due to the daily squeeze having that nice bullish momentum though. We are a little bit extended at that +1 ATR, but I think anything within this sector is definitely looking the best compared to any other sector due to the fact that we do still have stacked EMAs and this squeeze is looking to fire to the upside. So XLY is definitely one I will be watching for this upcoming week and stocks within that one. So now looking at the actual individual stocks that I'm looking at for this week and will potentially have a play or two on them. The first one being Broadcom. So if we look here, we have our daily squeeze setting up. Our histogram is above 0 and we are trading well above that 21 EMA, so everything about this one does look solid. We have our stacked EMAs, and then another reason I like this one is due to the semiconductors looking very solid here. They also have a daily squeeze setting up, basically the same structure as Broadcom. So if this one gets going and starts firing to the upside, I believe Broadcom will just follow along with it because it's within that sector. So I really do like this one if we can get that pullback to this 21 EMA, which is our ideal buy zone. So we'll be looking at this one throughout the week. The next one is Microsoft. So we had this daily squeeze, which it looked to be gaining some bullish momentum. Unfortunately, did get this other red histogram candle down here, and we are trading below that 0 line on the histogram, but its structure is still looking very solid. We have price trading above the 21, we have our stacked DMA, so everything about its structure is still very solid. So we'll like this one once we get this squeeze to start cooperating and working with us instead of having the red color on it. So we'll probably be looking later in the week for this one due to it needing to have a few more days to get this squeeze firing to that upside. The next one I like, kind of the same as Broadcom due to me liking the semiconductors. We have the daily squeeze setting up. Once again, we have some bearish momentum and the squeeze histogram is below 0, but its structure does look solid and its sector looks solid. So I do like Nvidia a lot here as it has been holding that 21. It's been bouncing off of it 2 times now the last 2 days, so that's a good sign to me that it could look for another push higher. The next one I'm looking at is C Limited. We're starting this daily squeeze here, have just barely below that 0 line, so this still looks solid to me. Its structure is just beautiful, have a great uptrend on it. We had that nice reversion back to the mean and has now been pinging around at that, just waiting for this squeeze I think to develop a little more before it has its next leg to the upside, but everything with this one structure does look very solid in my opinion. And then last but not least, the last play we're looking at for the week is ZS. So this one has just been grinding super high, very strong looking stock here, and everything about it is looking to the long side. As we can see, we have our stacked DMAs. Daily squeeze is setting up here just below that 0 line, but I think with its structure holding this 21 EMA just perfectly multiple times, I think that this will easily reverse and this squeeze will start to fire to the upside. So this is probably the one that I'm looking at most closely this week to get an entry on due to its structure just looking beautiful and the wonderful uptrend on it. So these are the stocks that I'm looking at for the upcoming week. Hopefully you all can add them to your watch list and have a few more to look at. Let's go out there Monday and start making some money.